Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 7 of the Lights Camera Discussion podcast. My name is Mass903. I'm here with Collective Unit and Todorov. Guys, how are we doing?
All good, mate. How are you?
Good, yeah.
All good, all good. So today, our 7th episode, flown by. Almost at 10. I think there was a stat I heard that like most podcasts never make it past episode 5 or episode 10 or something. So we are in the minority now. We are a top 1% podcast statistically. So
That's official.
that's official.
Put it on the banner.
So today we are going to be talking about Denis Villeneuve. This is part 1 of a 2-part episode because there is so many films that we're going to be talking about. We of course won't be talking about the early ones, but more like the kind of mainstream ones. So Prisoners, Enemy, and Sicario. But before we get into that, Collie, I think you've prepared a little thing about Mr. Villeneuve here. So take it away.
Denis Villeneuve is a Canadian filmmaker. He started out with some foreign language films in his native language of French, and then graduated into more Hollywood type films with the ones that we're going to be discussing today, while still keeping, the kind of character work, the kind of, story development and stuff that he was always really good for in his early stuff. Yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Well, yeah. How long did it take you to sort that out? That little
Weeks. Ever since we finished Ben Affleck, I've been developing that 3-sentence thing.
The thing is, well, I think it's perfectly succinct and it gives us everything we need to know about it.
It's better than the fucking Wikipedia thing because it just waffles.
And that definitely wasn't a waffle. I like it.
Succinct, I think was the term you're looking for.
Well, I mean, talking about waffling, let's not waffle too much as we normally do, and let's get straight into it. So, we are going to be talking about the first film, which is Prisoners, released in 2013. Just a little blurb about that. It's when Keller Dover's daughter and her friend go missing, he takes matters in his own hand as the police pursue multiple leads, and the pressure mounts. Have we seen this film before? Is this a rewatch for you guys?
Yeah.
Many times.
Many times. I remember the first time I watched this film was actually when I originally had my limited card. Me and the wife were down in Edinburgh and we were kind of bored. So we found it was like a Thursday, I think, like showed like films that had been in the cinema, and they came back for like a special showing or something like that. And we just randomly went and watched it. And spoiler alert, it was very, very good.
I was trying to think about when I first seen it, and I was double checking with Gabby earlier. I think what happened was that it was a secret screening for Cineworld.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I was away at a gig or something like that, so she went with Paul, I think, and Adam and that to see it.
Oh, yeah.
And then when she'd seen it, she was like, "Oh, you'd really like this." So when it got released, like a week or two later, or whatever, I went to see it, and yeah, blown away by it. Just spoiler alert if we're going to talk about our thoughts, but
Yeah, definitely.
pretty good film.
Was that Paul Dano that you went to with?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. He rocked up in his RV.
Right.
She had a hammer. It was the usual,
What a creepy.
A little bit
man.
scalded from the shower, and yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, kind of. Let's get kind of going into it. So this is Denis' first sort of English language film, isn't it, Collie?
Well, technically, it's not because Enemy was filmed before this, even though it was subsequently released thereafter.
Wow. Okay, that's
Really?
a nice piece of trivia. Thank you for that. I didn't know that.
So just a peek behind the curtain is that we were talking about the films briefly before it, and Massey comes out with that, and I was like, wait, I was going to tell that during the podcast, so I've reclaimed that as my bit of trivia.
If it's
Not
not
off
on the
Wikipedia.
podcast, then it didn't happen. So
Exactly.
there we go.
Exactly.
There we go. So let's delve into Prisoners a bit. So obviously, of course.
We need to know if Todd's watched it before.
Oh, sorry, Todd. Have you watched it?
Yeah, it is a rewatch.
Okay,
yeah.
that's enough.
I don't. Is that done?
Yeah,
Good. Right.
yeah.
Yes.
On you go.
Is that all we're doing?
Yes.
No, it's one of those that kind of I couldn't tell you when I first watched it because we watched it that much. It's just kind of it's part of the regular rewatches for us.
Yeah, same. Even though it's grim as fuck.
Yeah, it's not an easy watch, is it, by any stretch of the imagination? But yeah, and I think I forget about bits of it as well. Like we'll go into story, but like I think I'll leave it long enough that I'm a little bit sort of like, what happens to him? What happens to this character at the end? Hang on a second. I do kind of forget a little bit, which is always nice.
It's an age thing as well.
Yeah,
that is it. Yeah,
and education as well. So, so prisoners. Yeah. So I mean, first of all, let's kind of talk about the sort of direction and I mean, I kind of want to start off as well with a bit about the cinematography as well, because it is obviously the one and only Roger Deakins, an absolute go of the game. I mean, was there anything that you guys kind of that sort of drew out to yourselves, like cinematography wise, or even story wise, or anything at all? Collie, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, it's just like, just as an overarching thing, it's just a brilliantly shot film. And there's some of the shots that there's no characters in the scene in that. It's just a shot of the street and the camper van's there, and you don't know why the camper van's there early in the film, and it's just very foreboding and stuff. So the way that Deakins can shoot things that are quite ordinary, but through the use of the score and the music as well, but also just the film in general, that he can hint at something's not quite right here. And it always seems to be like, especially in this film, everything seems to be unsettling. Like nothing seems to be what it is. And that's kind of what happens throughout the story, is that you think it's this guy. Oh no, wait, you think it's this, and you think it's this. And there's lots of twists and turns. You go, oh, maybe it's not Paul Dano's character. And then, obviously it turns out at the end, well, it kind of was, but it's his aunt at the end of the day. And then that's not really his aunt. And it's just the winding kind of nature of the story. I think like from right at the beginning, when the opening scene, when they're hunting the deer with his son and stuff like that, and just I don't know, it's just the way that it's shot, from them speaking to one another, and then you're looking at the deer and back and forth, and then by the end of the film you're like, well, that's kind of reflected throughout the film, is like who's actually hunting and who's being hunted almost. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a blurb about the overall feeling of the film. Is like I was unsettled throughout the film, and I think just the way that the direction in terms of like the themes throughout the film of being unsettled. But I think like the filming by Deakins, and then the score by Johan Johansson, who did the first couple of Villeneuve films, and was going to be doing Blade Runner, but then passed away relatively young. He does a great job, coupled alongside Villeneuve and Deakins of setting the scene of this kind of winding story of bad stuff.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's the kind of the stalking, isn't it? Like the against the deer and the RV, kind of almost like a stalker as well, and yeah, the way it kind of it's all about the whole kind of show and don't tell, isn't it? It's like it's kind of like the unspoken creepiness that's sort of always following everyone around and stuff. It's so effectively done.
Yeah, like not to be like too wanky about or anything like that, but the RV like is his character in its own way, because
you
just see them clambering on it and stuff like that, and then you hear stuff from inside or whatever, and that's a bit unsettling because you're like, oh, what is it? And then even to like when the police find it in the car park, and then like it drives and crashes in that, it's as if it's its own thing, and obviously that Paul Dano's driving it, like realistically or whatever, but like you don't see him driving it. There's no cut shots of him behind the wheel. And then when it's crashed, all you see is Loki, Jake Gyllenhaal, like climbing in, and he's hiding behind the curtain, and that it's almost as if it's like the way that it's shot and kind of the way it's portrayed is that the RV's just this character in its own right. Like I say, it's a bit wanky to say, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good analogy, or a good observation. I like it.
Thanks.
Talking about wanky, we'll yeah.
Just quickly, like a complete digress to another podcast that I've got, but there's a sound clip on the Around the NFL podcast, and one of the hosts is called Mark, and there's one time that somebody said, "That's a great point, Mark," and they've like the producers taken that as a sound bit, so whenever he says something like that, they just press the button. That's a great point, Mark. It's just like that's what I felt like there, so that's why I'd acknowledge it with a thanks.
We'll need to get one for you like that. That's a great point, Collie.
Yeah.
Todd?
Yeah, it's I know I don't want to compare films and talk about them because we've got two parts, but it's his most intimate film in terms of, I think everything else is a lot grander. If you think about like the scale of even Enemy, the scale of that, and like the citywide shots and stuff, and the scale of Blade Runner and Dune especially is gigantic. Like all of this is very closely shot. And I think it's evidence that Deakins can do it all. Which we already knew, but it just shows it. But yeah, and I think story wise, the guy who wrote it, Aaron Guzikowski. I think I've given that
Try again.
my best go.
Yeah, good effort.
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, Guzikowski. That just rolls off the tongue now.
The more you dwell on it, the worse it'll be. So carry on.
Yeah, he's this is it was his second screenplay after Contraband with Mark Wahlberg in it.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen that at some point, like on a DVD somewhere from a pound shop, and it's a completely forgettable film. So to write that and then go into this is ridiculous, because like you say, the twists and the turns that it takes, and you know, like with sort of the Sixth Sense and the Village and all that kind of stuff, where you're expecting a twist, and that twist is normally one massive thing, oh my god, and then you carry on with the film. This just doesn't stop, and I think that's why I forget about a lot of what happens. Again, age, education, but also because there's so much going on. Like there's a lot to kind of contend with, but they do it really well, show it really well, write it really well. Yeah, so I mean, overall, it's just a phenomenal film.
Yeah, I mean, some would say it's a circular maze of twists and turns.
What were we saying about being wank?
That was a good one. That was a good one. I like that.
Oh,
It's a
alright,
great
is that-
point,
we'll allow
Massey.
Thank you.
So just on Letterboxd, which I'm on now, you know, as we've said before.
What's your username on
I-
Letterboxd for folk to follow you?
A collective unit, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. But I paid for the whatever subscription thing is for the annual thing for it, so I can change the posters. And some of the posters are incredible for it. And I think the one I chose I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal's head, but it's like segmented and it's got the maze like inside his head, like the maze logo and stuff like that. It looks really cool.
Yeah. So, like, forgive me, but the maze thing it is obviously a big part of it. But for me, it was big. That was probably the most confusing part in terms of like what it kind of represented and stuff. Did you guys have anything that you thought it represented or what it kind of meant? Like, my kind of feeling was it was more a wider sort of cabal of like people that steal kids and that. But
Oh, it's 100%. It's 100% like a massive. It's not just those two. It's akin to like there's a a child abduction and
yeah,
exploitation ring operating in either in the area or wider sprung, and this little maze logo is kind of what keeps them together or whatever. Like the scene when Loki goes to your man's house and then finds the guy in the cellar dead, and he's got the maze pendant or whatever. Yeah. And obviously you see that later on when he goes to the house. He sees there's the photo of the husband, Paul Dano's uncle, or whatever, and he's got the pendant on and stuff like that. And that's when he clicks that it's actually them / a wider thing between them all. But then there's also the big detour to I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. David
Mastin.
Yeah, your man there. The polka dot dude from Suicide Squad. Amongst a lot of other things. There's the diversion and the complete subversion that it's him, and it's all him, and he's there's the investigation going to the supermarket where he's buying the kids' clothes and all that kind of stuff. But you obviously see him earlier in the film where he's sneaking into the house and taking clothes. So he's obviously just this loony that, like, I don't know if he wants to be caught as the killer, but he's like trying to pretend that he is. But then it's actually the fact that he's linked back to he was abducted and abused as a child or something like that is what my understanding was being hinted. And then he blows his brains out, which is a brutally like intense scene that in the interrogation room when he grabs it, because you're like, what's he gonna do? And then he just blows his brains out, because you're like, is he gonna shoot Loki? Is he gonna shoot another policeman in that? And he just goes, yep, I've had enough, kind of thing. One of many intense scenes. And then obviously Loki goes to his house and opens all those cases, all the snakes and stuff like that. I didn't really know why there were snakes in them.
No,
I don't know if that was just an unsettling like directorial choice or whatever. But yeah, like obviously then they identify all the clothes and stuff, but they're like, well, that's not what they went out in. I think is that what they kind of surmise at the end? They identify the clothes or whatever, but it turns out that like it was pig's blood. That's what it was. Is it not that they do like DNA testing on the blood that's on
And it's
the
pig's-
clothes?
yeah.
And it's pig's blood, and that's when they ascertain that it wasn't him. It was him stealing it and copying it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, talking about performances, obviously, we talk about Mr. Polka Dot Man there. I mean, obviously, kind of going from one loony to another. Paul Dano is something else, isn't he? Like, he is just
Absolutely
ridiculous. Even when there's the part after he's released from the police station and Keller grabs him in between the two police cars and he like whispers to him. I can't remember exactly what he whispers to him, but kind of like it's
like
enough.
They didn't start crying until I left him or something like that.
Yeah.
And like
it's something I can't remember it word for word, but it's some kind of obvious like him telling him that I did do it kind of thing.
It's
that's mental. Yeah,
That's exactly. Yeah, that's it. They didn't stop crying until I left. Yeah, they didn't start crying until I left them. That's exactly it. Yeah.
It's just so
I just
creepy.
think it was a case of like, because obviously because of his mental age, they say he's got the mental age of a 10-year-old, isn't it? I think that's what it is. Like, obviously he's been sat with these kids, and because he's a little kid himself type thing, I saw it as like he was there enjoying himself. They were enjoying, being with them, and then as soon as he's been dragged away by his auntie, that's obviously when they've started like getting upset. So it's that sort of. It is a red herring, but it's also not. Like, it's telling you exactly where the kids are, but it just kind of, it's just, he does it so well that you genuinely think he's a creep. Even with the hands, how slow those hands come out of that curtain in that RV was. Yeah. Like that could have been
slightly faster than like, 1.5 times, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
They're just like,
like a jump scare.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
yeah. Sorry, Todd, keep going.
No, I was just gonna, even in the shower, like even in that sort of enclosed shower that they create for him, which is again brutal that you only see those like inflamed eyes and stuff through the light. Like even there, just with his eyes, he's given this performance of, and I think that's what he does so well is that he kind of he's got that weird about him, but it's not like a sort of over the top hammy chewing on the scenery weird. It's a believable.
Oh, no, it feels absolutely genuine. It feels absolutely genuine, and like because you could easily, like you say, it could turn into hammy or even like a parody of a person of that nature and stuff like that. But he just nails it. The guy's an amazing actor.
I think what he's so good at doing is like he almost embodies the character, and anything he does feels natural for that character. No matter what movie he's in, it feels like he is that character sort of thing. So any little bits and pieces, it feels like it's the guy.
There's a note on his IMDb saying that, or on IMDb for this film, saying Paul Dano admits to being attracted to roles of this nature, learning difficulties, screaming, nonsensical ranting, and he says he draws on his own personal and private experiences to perfect these recurring roles. So, like, we're talking about Barry Keoghan off podcast before, and he seems to be kind of gravitating towards not similar roles to Paul Dano, but like similar roles in terms of like he plays kind of out there characters or whatever. And Paul Dano's the same, but he's saying that the reason he can perfect it is that he's drawn from whatever he's went through personally and privately and stuff like that. So like, even when you see him like back in like There Will Be Blood when he plays the twins and that, like that's the first thing I think I ever seen him in. Maybe it was. What's the film that he was in before?
Little Miss
Sunshine,
Sunshine,
that time, Little Miss Sunshine and stuff as well. I can't remember what one I seen first. I think it was There Will Be Blood. And he's just incredible in that, like playing the two different characters, and he can play, this quiet kind of unsettling dude like he does in Prisoners, and then even within There Will Be Blood, he plays this confident, like young priest of this commune or whatever he's in charge of, and then at the end scene of that, he's like groveling and crying and stuff like that to Daniel Day-Lewis. So his range is unbelievable. He's just one of those guys, and we've talked about them I think on previous podcasts, that he's always going to be an incredible like supporting actor. He's not going to be like a leading man in like a Hollywood film, if you know what I mean. Like he was in the Spielberg film
The Fabelmans.
Fabelmans, and he was incredible in that. But even then, he wasn't like the main character, even though he kind of was. It was a kind of partnership with I'm forgetting all the names. Is Carrie? No,
Michelle Williams.
Michelle
Williams, yeah, the same.
Michelle Williams, sorry, yeah. So like that was kind of more of a partnership, so they were supporting each other. But yeah, he's absolutely unbelievable. And again, this was just one of those ones that I'd not seen him in too much at the time, because this is 10 and a bit years old. This film, it was 2013, I think it came out.
Yeah.
So that was one of still early, relatively in his career. But yeah, he's class. I love him. Anything that he's in, I'll watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Jake Gyllenhaal as a performance. Again, another one absolutely smashed it. One of the things that really kind of drew me in was his little facial tics, and you know, what he was doing with his face and his physicality. I thought was like unbelievable. It was phenomenal. So where was it again that Villeneuve decided to cast him? How did he get into this film again?
Well, they worked together in Enemy, which was released after this, but it was filmed beforehand. So
right,
due to them clicking on that film, they opted to work together again on this one.
Perfect, excellent. I remembered you saying that at the start again. Yeah, so I just thought like confirm that. Perfect.
I actually wrote it. It was me. It was me that wrote it on IMDb.
Oh, was
actually.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
Todd, thoughts on Jake Gyllenhaal, Jakey G? I know you tweeted about this man, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, like I could just look at him. I like just be I'm fine with that. Like I think I'm a bit of a sort of, you know, like when you say about card carrying fanboy. Like I genuinely, the Prince of Persia film was not a good film, but he was good in it. Like he did his best with it. Like, and aside from that, I think he picks roles really well. Like, as in, either like he gets approached by a director and agrees to it, or he will then approach it, or whatever, however that works. And I think this is like, it's not your typical detective. There was a bit of, he was in an interview, he was saying like, nothing against the script, it was a great script, but like, Detective Loki didn't have a lot about him. He was just like a straight-laced cop, and that's why the Freemasons ring, excuse me, all the tattoos and the facial tics and stuff. He said like this character has a history. He's aware of what the history is. He doesn't need anybody else to know because he's made that. He's built that character. But even like his build, when we were watching it, I was like, does he not? He looks different to how he normally does, and he's like bulked up a little bit. He's a little bit more sort of square. But again, he's not just the shouty, like, he does the shouting and all that very well, but the subtle side of things, he's phenomenal. Just after David Dasmalchian kills himself in that room, and he's sat on that chair, and it's like a parallel shot where Hugh Jackman's character sat in the chair, and then he sat in it, like, almost in a similar sort of situation. That was the best bit for me. It was like, it was quiet. It was leading up to this massive blow up. But the guy he knows a character. And like you say with Paul Dano, like he embodies that character. He takes it all on. I don't think he goes full method. I don't think he's going like to that extent. But I just think he knows what he's doing and picks those roles well.
Definitely. Collie, thoughts on Mr.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. Like he's one of my favourite working actors currently. And this was one of the ones that made you kind of sit up and go, like, he is, you know, built different in a way, and not, you know, physically like Todd was slabbering over a second ago. But yeah, it's just like exactly what you say, Todd. It's like he doesn't need to tell anybody what he's doing or anything like that. He's kind of portraying that character through the screen to you as to what he feels like he's been through. He doesn't have to strictly tell you, because I think that there's one theory / thing out there that he was like in a boys' home and like he had no parents and stuff, so that's why this case more than a lot of them motivates him, because it's, you know, a kid suffering or whatever. So there's that theory, and whether that's true or not, or if it was like, you know, planned or anything like that, you can kind of, as soon as you hear that, you're like, I can believe that because of how he is. Like some of the scenes with him and Hugh Jackman are incredible. The one in the car when Hugh Jackman pretends to be like going in and buying drink and stuff like that because he's being followed, and then they're in the car together and Hugh Jackman's like screaming at him, being like, just find my daughter and stop following me. But my like standout scene for me is right at the end when he's driving and this is a lot to do with how it's shot by Deakins and that, but when he's driving and he's been shot like in the head or grazed in the head by the bullet, so there's blood all over his face, and you can't see out the front window and stuff, and he's telling, like, you know, he's to the kid in the back, like, you're gonna be fine and stuff like that. And dude, like, the intensity of that scene and the way that he's frantic in it is amazing. Like, I just, again, it's one of those ones that he'd been around for a bit at the time. Like, you know, maybe when was Donnie Darko? 2000, I think. Late 90s, 2000 or something like that. So he'd been about like for over a decade, and I'd seen him in things and enjoyed him, but this was one that kind of graduated him to being, like, you know, S tier for me acting. I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. And then obviously subsequently after this film, he's went on to play numerous, you know, really good roles off the back of this, and obviously that's of his own merit. But I don't know if, like, him being in this kind of got him other roles perhaps because of how he portrayed him and how good he was at it.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Massey, about JKG?
Yeah, and I think, again, it almost goes hand in hand with the film, and we were talking about how it's more show don't tell, and like his whole backstory is like we're seeing the repercussions of the backstory as opposed to being told what the backstory was, and I think that that speaks volumes for how he portrays a character, and yeah, I love him. I think it's weird, like I'm kind of one of these guys that's can be chronically online sometimes, and on Twitter, like, he does get a lot of hate for some reason. I don't get it. I think a lot of it was to do with his relationship with Taylor Swift, I think, or something.
Fuck me.
I'm not having to go at any Swifties. Please do not come for us. But I think he's great. I
am. That's how it.
No, don't say that, because they are a rabid fan base. And they come for a big podcast, you know, like the top 1% podcast.
I think it's like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, so
our fan base are absolute nutcases for the most part. Allegedly,
yeah. And I think sometimes that kind of goes in the way of his acting prowess, because his acting, he's phenomenal. He's absolutely amazing. Like, I mean, again, this is one of his other films, but Nightcrawler, like that, like that is one of the best performances I think I've ever seen. Like, he's unbelievable in that film. And yeah, we've got Enemy to thank for that, I suppose, haven't we? Going on to the
Enemy, which was filmed before.
Yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to the final of the sort of like the big three. Mr. Hugh Jackman. Obviously, Collie spoke about how his sort of performance when he was in the car with Detective Loki, like that. Again, throughout the whole thing, I think his desperation to find his kid is harrowing, and it's genuinely distressing to see him seep further and further into this sort of metaphorical and literal at the end dark hole of trying to find his kids safe and sound. Todd, what are your thoughts on Hugh Jackman's performance in this?
Yeah, I think, again, he could have gone too far. Do you know what I mean? He could have gone overboard, and he nailed it. I think. Sorry, just to touch on the other parents. So, like, they all show a different sort of like level of grieving and worry and panic. And I think for Hugh Jackman to be the sort of the big bombastic refusing to let it go, even when they have, I think, is it Daniel Mittel? Is that how you say his name? Sorry, the lad who plays his son.
Right.
Dylan Minnette. So I was nowhere near.
It's close.
I got the initials
Daniel
right.
Mittel.
Just chuck out a D and an M and see what happens.
I think Daniel Mittel's his real name, but Dylan Minnette is his
like, it's his stage name.
That's it.
Yeah. That's where I read it. It's another bit of trivia that we will put on IMDb this afternoon. Yeah, he's that scene where he's been told they're dead. They found the clothes, they found the blood on them, and he's got hold of that kid screaming at him like, "You don't tell your mother, they're still alive, they're still out there, and I'm going to go and find them." Like, it's not a sort of deluded belief. Like, you believe he believes it. It's not he's going to be gone until he finds a body type thing. But I thought, like, the vulnerable side of him was brilliant as well, and that sort of back and forth, like you say, in the car with Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing. But I think just the sort of cat and mouse game that they were playing with each other was when he's drunk in the house and giving him the tour was absolutely fantastic. I just think Hugh Jackman's one of the. He's not underrated by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not trying to say that like people don't know who Hugh Jackman is or don't know how well he can act, but he doesn't come up in those conversations. I think with Jake Gyllenhaal, with DiCaprio, whatever. But I do think he holds his own. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think you would say that he was in any way, shape, or form like below Jake, or you know. I thought he was fantastic, and like I say, the intensity really matched the story. Yeah, Colin.
Yeah, I thought he was incredible. Like the bathroom scene just stands out as one of the most notable scenes of the film. I think it was on IMDb earlier, and for the hammer scene, Hugh Jackman was asked by Villeneuve to be completely ferocious for the next take, and that was the one that they used in the final film. And the fact that, like, again, going back to Dano briefly, is the fact that he doesn't flinch at all throughout it. It's incredible. And yeah, it's just the way he desperate is a perfect way to describe it. In terms of like how far would you go to find out what happened to your kid? And obviously, he does the thing when he locks him up in the bathroom, and that after he says the bit at the police station to him about them crying. So he's admitted to him that he like Paul Dano was involved by saying that. So I'm not saying he's justified in what he's doing, but I don't think it's as if he's just abducted the guy off the street that's been slightly accused. You know, it's not as if he's doing that to David guy's character, who's just like he's suspected or whatever because he's buying children's clothes or he's a bit weird. He's doing it to a guy who's like admitted to his face pretty much like, yeah, I was involved in the abduction of your daughter. So he's a really I'm very sympathetic towards him in a way. Like obviously, like, you know, legally and morally he's doing stuff that's like way over the line, but like I don't have kids or anything like that. But like if you were put in that situation that, you know, something that you love more than anything was taken from you and stuff like that, then you know, I think he kind of goes into that grey area of he plays it enough that you're like, nah, he's wrong in what he's doing, but also the way that he's portraying it, like even when he's talking about with his son and like looking after his mum and stuff like that, because he's obviously away doing what he's doing with Paul Dano. His interactions with his son are really interesting, telling him that, you know, you have to be a man now, and obviously that goes all the way back to like the deer scene at the start, when he's like trying to, you know, tell his son this is the way of the world. And then when you look into his cellar, he's got obviously all this kind of it's not survivalist, but you know, like
Doomsday prepper,
doomsday prepper stuff. Yeah. So you could tell that he's like, what he loves more than anything is his family, because he's prepping for the worst to ever happen, so they're all safe and secure and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's incredible. It was funny. I was reading again on IMDb and Wikipedia and stuff. He was attached to the project and then he left briefly, and then he came back. I think he was attached to it, but I can't remember the other director. There was another director attached to it anyway, and then I think Villeneuve got him back on when he took over to direct. But Hugh Jackman's just a fantastic actor. Like, a lot of people will only know him as Wolverine, but throughout his career, and rightfully so. Like, he's great at playing Wolverine, but it's roles like this that I think that show him for the kind of varied actor that he is. And then you've got stuff like Greatest Showman. And what's his other film that he's in that I really like? Real Steel, like stuff like that. It's just such a variety. But when he, alongside Dano and Gyllenhaal, can go into this like intense film, I think when all three of them have worked the way that they've worked in this film, like they bounce off each other so well. And yeah, like I think Hugh Jackman, you know, all three of them, none of them blow each other out the water, which is saying something considering how good they are.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, so kind of going into like spoiler territory now. Let's kind of move towards the kind of the end of the story, where obviously we Todd's gone. I think he's going to come back. Where we
sorry,
sort of,
I was just blurry.
That's fine. Just keep your camera off. It's all good. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where we find out basically that it was as you say, the auntie, which isn't actually Paul Dano's auntie. Obviously there's a load of build up and twists and turns, as we spoke about, up until this sort of final act. What were your thoughts when I don't know if you can remember when you first watched this? Did you kind of see any hints towards you know, that the story was going to be going this way, or was it something that came completely out of the blue? What was your kind of thoughts on the ending? Todd, Collie, either?
Look, just for me, it's a pretty straightforward one. I thought it came properly out the blue. Like there was, I knew there was something coming that it wasn't. I never got the impression that it was Paul Dano. I thought it was too obvious. Or, and then you go and is it a double bluff? And never in a million years would I have said it was her. And I think the best bit about like the sort of storytelling of it is that like the whole thing of him not being her nephew is a sort, not blinking you'll miss it, but it's a very easy sort of thing to pass over. It's not like they've done this big court case or add another 10 minutes on the film. It's like a 30-second minute.
Well, it just says that like kid that was missing for however many years is being reunited with his family or whatever. That's all you get told about it, really.
Mm-hmm. And done. And it's just like I just thought that was a perfect way to end like what was a. You're left with that sort of shock anyway that she did it. So yeah, I can't remember, like I say, the first time I watched it, but every time I revisit it, I'm still looking for things, and there's nothing to me. But then again, I don't know, Collie. I don't know if you noticed anything through it.
No, especially like not thinking it would be her. Obviously, like he kind of it must be Paul Dano then if he's saying what he's saying to Hugh Jackman about leaving them and crying and stuff like that. But then when I seen Loki's in the house at the end and he sees like the necklace and the photo and stuff like that, that's when it doesn't click, because obviously you've kind of is that scene before that must be. Trying to remember what way it goes. Is Hugh Jackman already in the hole at that point? No, he's not. He comes after.
No, I think he is
in the hole.
I'm sure he is.
And Gyllenhaal's there.
Yeah.
Of course he is. Of course he is, because then he saves the daughter then. Yeah, sorry, right. So like, you obviously know it's her at that point, but then it's when you see that is when you kind of, because she obviously tells Hugh Jackman about my husband went missing or whatever, so that's when it all clicks. But then when Jake Gyllenhaal sees the necklace, that's when it like all of it clicks, because obviously that's where like shit, that was him in the basement, and like that's where it is. That's where like that's when he went missing, because all you hear is her saying like, oh, he went missing, or I've not seen him for years or whatever, and then that's when all of it clicks. But no, it was kind of early on it's hinted that it's Paul Dano, and then it's like his auntie's like protecting him, and then it kind of comes full circle round again to then it's Paul Dano and his auntie though. So I wasn't expecting it. I think it's a great like twist. And I can't remember what's her name. The lady plays Melissa Leo plays the auntie, and she was amazing she won an Oscar for it, The Fighter, with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale in it. She won an Oscar for that, for playing the mum, I believe, or she was at least nominated, and she was incredible. And obviously they aged her up a fair bit, giving her the grey hair and stuff like that. And then there was an IMDb. It was like she asked them not to clean the glasses that she was wearing after each take, like every day and stuff, because she wanted to come across as like a grotty kind of not everything there kind of woman and stuff. So yeah, she put in a great performance in the handful of scenes that she was in. I thought she was great, from coming like being like the protective aunt figure, and then she's obviously talking to Hugh Jackman, and then she's got the gun. And then it's like it's all revealed. Then it's like it's that switch to the intensity of just like, yeah, you're fucked. It was me kind of thing. Incredible. I thought it was amazingly shot. And then I don't know what anyone else has thought. Massey, I've asked you. Have you spoken on that yet? Your twist at the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, so this was actually only my second time watching it. I should have said at the start, but when we first watched it in cinema, I totally didn't get it at all. But I echo exactly everything you guys have said. I would also say as well, when she's making him drink like the gallons of like that like substance, that's like horrible. Like it's so.
And she ad-libbed him drinking more.
Yeah,
she was like, "No, you need to drink more" or whatever. And that was the actress, because she didn't believe it was believable that what Hugh Jackman was doing. Like he would have to have drunk more to be knocked out or whatever. So she was like, "Oh no, you have to drink more," and he obviously like reacted to that in character. And did drink more, so I thought that was great. But yeah, it's minging.
It's horrible, isn't it? And I think as well, again, that's kind of testament to Denis Villeneuve as well. Like he allows his actors that kind of space to be able to ad lib. There's a couple of things obviously that are kind of more kind of again with these people encapsulating the characters, that they can kind of like take things potentially a little bit away from the script, or like or down a route that they see fit, which again is just testament to how much he believes and trusts his actors and stuff as well. In terms of obviously the final shot we see is the car, and they've been searching, and they've like dug up the whole the garden and stuff, and Loki's there, and we think it's kind of the end, and the car is still there, and we hear like the kind of the faint whistle. There's people that obviously, personally, I think afterwards he's found by Loki, but there's people out there that think that he either didn't hear it or it's quite ambiguous. What did you guys get from that? Because again, personally, I think he's the whistle that we hear is enough for him to be found.
Well, I think 100% gets found, but then what people probably don't think about is that he'll get done, he'll get arrested, and he'll get put in prison for a long time for what he did, regardless of the intent behind it and stuff. So, yeah, like the happy ending is that, oh my god, he's found, he's not dying in this hole or whatever, and he'll get to see his daughter again. But the kind of repercussions of what he's done will still come to come home to roost, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think he's definitely found, and then obviously, like I said, the long of it is that you'll get prison for it, even though like he was doing it with the best of intentions. He was still torturing, dude.
Mm-hmm. Todd, any other thoughts with that?
No, I'm with you. Like, especially because in the hospital, when Jake Gyllenhaal says like, "Oh, she found a whistle," and she's, "Oh no, we didn't. I had to buy her a new one." Like, there's too many things that connect for him, and I think the whole he's never like left a case unsolved type thing. He's always solved every case, and I think all of those little sort of like breadcrumbs he has to. I don't know if you think any different, Massey, but I just think it's good that it's left it ambiguous. It's good that like we have this like you can have this conversation, but there's too many connections for it not, or like too many hints for it from not to find him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally.
Even from like a story point perspective, but I guess like in real life, if like they were scouring the whole grounds and stuff like that, surely as like police work, you would move that car anyway. I know that's like taking it a bit too serious perhaps, but if you're digging up the grounds, then why would you not dig up like everywhere? You know what I mean? So
to be fair, I think
find him in time though.
I think because I think there's a bit of dialogue about how it's like snowy and stuff, isn't it? Or
the ground's
I think,
too hard for it or whatever. Yeah.
But I mean,
just move the fucking car.
Exactly. Yeah. The thing is, surely that car would be taken away anyway to like be checked for prints and all that sort of stuff, just as part of it. So
yeah. But then it might not be in time to save him, kind of thing. Well, so
yeah.
But no, absolute masterpiece of a film.
Yeah, unbelievable.
5-star on Letterboxd.
Did you get 5 stars on Letterboxd? Did you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Todd?
Yeah, same here, 5-star.
Yeah, same. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's just it's a phenomenal film. Do you want to give final thoughts, or I think that kind of sums up, really, doesn't it? Our final thoughts on the film. 5 stars all around.
Yeah, absolutely. It swaps being my number one film by him.
Yeah.
With one of the other ones that we'll talk about
on this episode.
I'm not going to say.
Okay. Okay, doke. Well, let us move on to the second film, but technically the first film. I don't know if you guys know this, but it was actually filmed before Prisoners, but released afterwards.
So I've been told.
So the film is Enemy, released in 2013 after Prisoners. And the blurb for that is that a man seeks out his exact lookalike after spotting him in a movie. So again, had you guys seen this film before? Is this a rewatch for you guys?
I'd seen it before.
Yeah, not as many times as other Villeneuve films, but yeah, I've seen it before.
It's a first watch for me. Like this is the first time I'd ever seen. I we'll get to the ending, but I kind of knew about the ending because it was on like a What Culture video like ages ago that I'd watched. One of those like 10 wackiest endings or whatever. So I kind of knew what happened at the end, which we'll talk about. But yeah, first watch for me, kind of from the off. It's a strange one. It's definitely a strange film. From the get go as well. I do think that there's a lot to like about it. There's some things that I wasn't quite sure of, but I mean, on rewatch, what were your guys' thoughts, or you know, can you think about how you when you first watched it, what you sort of thought about it at all, Collie?
Yeah, so on first watch, I was like, "Why is there so many spiders?" For the start of it. But I just remember on my first watch, like I find it was a very uncomfortable film. It's very unsettling, in a slightly different way, obviously to Prisoners. But I just thought like Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing in it as well, especially playing the two characters and the kind of subtle nuances between them, because you know one kind of theory or like thought of this is that like he's playing two halves of the same person, so there's enough crossover that you can tell that they're the same, but they're he's got just the subtle things that makes them different. So I thought he was amazing in it. And yeah, just to kind of reading up more on it afterwards, because like during the film I wasn't thinking about it too much, but the theories about like why there's spiders and why is there a spider at the end and stuff. There's a lot more to this film than kind of on face value, because on face value, like this film is a solid like okay film for me. It's absolutely fine, and it's still, you know, a lot better than a lot of the stuff that's put out there, but it's really hard to rate this as highly as his other films, because all of his other films are like 9 minimum for me. Spoiler alert for obviously we're going to talk about them all, but this one's just, it's not like a step down per se, it's just, it's not as palatable as the other ones. And I think that's a deliberate choice, and I think that is reflected in budget and box office and promotion for it, even because there's so many people that only know the other 5 films that we're talking about that he did. This one's kind of went under the radar. I don't know if that's because it was released same year as Prisoners or what is, but there's so many people that are like, Enemy, I don't even know that like what that is, because they only know Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner, and Dune. Like that's all they know that he's done. Even people that like are into their films. This one I passed them by, but I remember watching it. I didn't see it in the cinema, but I remember watching it like as soon as I could, or like I seen, you know, it released on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. Like I watched it, you know, probably 2014 maybe. I didn't watch it like right off rip, but yeah, I think like the standout for this is Jake Gyllenhaal, because the film is all about him for the most part. But some of the supporting cast are really good. Fleur Delacroix, actress or whatever her name is, she's really good. Melanie Laurent, I think that's her. She was really good. And no, that's not Fleur Delacroix. That's it's another actress I'm thinking of. But yeah, anyway, ignore that bit. But she was really good. As was the other partner of the other Jake Gyllenhaal. So the kind of 4 main characters I thought were really, really good.
Yep.
Todd?
Yeah, it's like you say, uncomfortable's the word, and purposefully so. Almost like a nightmare. It had that similar feel to like All My Friends Hate Me and Mother and stuff like that, where I think it purposefully makes you question what's real, what's not, and even in the way it's shot, and you know, I'm sure we'll get into the spider stuff, but the way that sort of like nightmare and reality merge and mesh, and is it an actual person? Are they twins? Are they brothers? What do you know what I mean? And I really enjoy it, but I think, and not just again because I like to look at him, but like Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, I think it's just a character. It's more of a character study than anything else, and I love that about it. I think on a rewatch, I appreciated it more, because I do think this is only second or third watch. I definitely appreciated it more, but again, just because I felt like I knew what was going on, I feel like there's a lot being thrown at you on a first watch. But obviously, you can speak to that, Massey.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. It's and again, like you said, Collie, it for me it is a definite step down from the others films. But I think it's because I kind of just watch it on a surface level as a sort of first watch. There was things that I kind of like picked up, like how we never actually see. Well, we do see obviously the two of them in the same room at once, but it's only when they're there. But whenever there's someone else involved, they're never in the same part. It's always like there's like something obscuring him from the other person. Like there's a bit when the actors is it the actors misses the actors misses meets him, the teacher on the bench is outside is like his like where he teaches, and then when he leaves, he goes around the corner, and then she phones him and she speaks to him. So you don't actually see the actor speaking to her
Yeah.
while he's
Yeah.
still there. So I kind of picked up on little things like that, and it kind of did make me think that it's potentially the same person, or like is reflective of the same person. So that was kind of a couple of things I picked up, but certainly it's, as you said, Collie, there's a lot of things being kind of thrown at you as well. It's sort of it's quite overwhelming, unsettling and overwhelming. I would say is definitely the ways that we can look at this. But yeah, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible playing these two sides, and you're right. It's kind of like there's almost subtle differences as well, because you can kind of see parts of him in each character, but certain parts are kind of dialed up to 11. So it's a really interesting watch, and you know, I can see why Villeneuve then chosen for his next movie, which was Prisoners. I thought it was very good, and there's a lot of nudity in this one as well. It's quite quite naughty, I would say, as well. But yeah, again, the spiders. Like, I know you sent me an article and stuff like that, and I still don't really get it, to be honest. It's wild. I mean, shall we kind of get into the spiders now and see kind of what what we're thinking? And
I mean, just one note about Jake Gyllenhaal. The man can act in front of a mirror, that's for sure. The scene when he's shouting in the mirror was very reflective of, you know, probably one of the more notable scenes from Nightcrawler, when he shakes the mirror and it breaks and stuff like that. I was like, I see that. I've seen this before, but you know, but like, yeah. But again, like I said at the start, like he carries his film, and obviously he's gonna do what he's the main actor in it. But yeah, so the spider subtext. So this is based, like, this is, so as quite a lot of Villeneuve projects, this is like based on something, like, you know, other material, whether it be a book or anything like that, or a previous film in terms of like Blade Runner, which is based on a book. So there's subtext, and this is, I didn't pick. I'm not going to be like, I picked up on this the first time I watched it, but when he's talking about control and dictatorship early on. I think it's one of the first things that he's doing as his teacher. He's talking about how dictatorships control and stuff, and then there's the scene in the club with the tarantula and the lassie's away to step on it and stuff, and then there's the shots of the city with the massive spider like looming over it, and then there's finally when he's like, what does he say? He's like, I'm away out or whatever, and then he goes in the room and the spider's there. For me, there was the articles that we were sending each other and reading or whatever, was like a lot of it's about like spider women and stuff like that, and like how that's kind of a, throughout time women have been portrayed like that. But for me, it's kind of like that, but it's also like the spiders represent like control, and it's him, can he control himself in terms of like who's who? Because I'm gonna go down that he's the out there theory, and it's kind of massive with the whole like nobody sees each other at the same time thing. I'd love for like the real theory behind this to be that he is like not just a doppelganger, but like a split personality, and it kind of is him. I know it can't be because of like the physical way that they look and stuff, but I would like it to all be not in his own head either, but the way that it's reflected is that he can't control his impulses of like infidelity and stuff like that. So even though it's not him at the end, it's the other one and stuff, but it's like he can't control that impulse. So when he sees the spider, that's just his fear and crippling anxiety about control and stuff like that, is that he sees the woman not just as a woman, but as a spider that's controlling his life. It's a bit of a waffle, but like the spiders for me represent control throughout it, and it's always like looming over him and stuff like that, and it's always the fight against his compulsions to do stuff that'll hurt the people that he does care for, but he obviously can't care enough about them if he's going to do shit like that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, it's almost like spiders are like the, in terms of insects, are like the
Are spiders insects?
arachnids, whatever. All like the webs kind of like entangled. Yeah, whatever.
Well, sorry, just on the spider thing, and one great shot is when after the big car crash, which I remember when I first watched it, I was like, "Holy fuck!" Like I did not expect that whatsoever. And then they zoom in on the mirror, the window is like a big spider web over what's his, is that Adam or Anthony? I get confused. Whatever one is.
The actor.
The actor, yeah. Okay,
Sinclair,
yeah, the actor,
yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was just like maybe a bit on the nose, perhaps, than other stuff that Villeneuve would do, but I thought it was a good reflection of, again, spiders being throughout the film and the whole overbearing control that he sees. That's what they represent to him.
I definitely think that it's going to make me watch Madam Web in a different sense as well. The whole Spider-Woman and stuff as well. I think it's going to be quite a good double feature, Enemy and Madam Web.
You'll make it a triple feature and watch Eight-Legged Freaks while you're at it.
Funny trivia story is that David Arquette is in all of those. He's not. Todd, thoughts on Spider?
I was ready to believe. I was there.
I thought you mean there was like an Eight-Legged Freak like franchise, and there was like multiple films.
I think there might be actually. Maybe
anyway, it doesn't matter. Todd, what's your thoughts on the spiders?
Yeah, so I'm with Massey on the web thing. I just thought it was a case of, because we don't know who's who and what's what, because it's the actor that's in the club where the tarantula is going to be stepped on at the beginning. I'm sure it is. And then it's like the teacher who's having the nightmares. I just thought it was a case of those two things bleeding into, like these two personalities bleeding into each other, and then the sort of, if it is the same person, which I'd like to think it is, I think that would be the better sort of the better story. I just thought it was a case of like, not only are these characters bleeding into each other, but like the reality and the nightmare and stuff are as well, and it like just goes back to how it's shot, how it feels, even like that sort of. Was it the same person who did the music for Prisoners? Because I felt like the score did quite a bit of heavy lifting as well. No. Wasn't no. Yeah, I feel like the music did quite Danny Bensi and Sonda Urians. No, I'm all right. I've said what I've said. It's on record. Yeah, so I just think it was that case, like I say, of reality mixing with the sort of dream nightmares that they having, or that he is having as a person. So, but again, I'm happy to just kind of be struck by it every time I see it. I'm expecting it. I know it's happening, but the way that spider moves, I'm not fussed by spiders in any way, shape, or form. But the way that spider moves into the corner of the
the way it backs up and
it recoils, doesn't it? Yeah.
It is really fucking
That's
weird.
Your spider impression for the episode, right?
Yeah, great. Thanks
Todd,
for that.
Todd,
don't.
Do you want to try?
No,
it was my turn this time. It was my turn this time.
I can't top it. That's the best we're gonna get.
I look forward to seeing that in Madam Web as well.
Yeah, stop talking about Madam Web. You're never gonna meet her.
I don't want to.
Stop talking about Madam Web. Never gonna meet her.
I don't want to meet her. I don't like Dakota Johnson.
Really? Oh,
yeah. I'm not misogynist, by the way. I love women.
Oh, I quite like.
Hey, nobody was
Ellen DeGeneres. I think she's a good egg in my part for the fact that she put down Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah. You were invited, actually, Alan. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, she was too busy sitting with George W. Bush at the baseball or whatever it was.
Was it?
No, I don't think that was the same thing. It's just Ellen got in trouble for that as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Anyway. Stop talking about Madam Web.
Sorry, I have to. Whenever spiders are brought up, I have to. Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything you guys want to talk about else about Enemy? I think we kind of covered quite a lot of it. It's quite a, as I said, different sort of film in his.
I think it's a very concise 90-minute film, like of a character study, exactly like Todd says. There was some good shots in cinematography. Like Todd was mentioning earlier, like I will say when Todd was like, "Oh, Prisoners is more intimate," I would say like this is the most intimate for me personally because it's very, very character focused. Whereas like Prisoners was a story, if that makes sense. Like this is a story kind of, but it's just kind of you're just kind of brought into these dudes, or this dude, if we were going down the theory, it's one person, life as it is at that moment, and then you only follow him about for a little period, and then this happens at the end with the spider, and then you check out of his life. It's just a quick dive into the guy's life for a short period of time, and then you're out of it. Whereas like Prisoners is more of a story. What are you laughing at?
I know, Todd. What were you starting to grin at there?
That you were going to have a quick dick into his life.
Did I say that?
Away to,
You corrected yourself. Like, put it, quick dick in. Dick in.
See Gyllenhaal, you know what I mean? Can you blame the man? Messi, you'll get this quote. Can you blame the man for going out of his mind temporarily?
What's that from?
Oh, it's a commentary when Aberdeen won the.
Oh,
I remember it was the League or the Scottish Cup, and,
yeah.
and Alex Ferguson goes fucking mental.
He's jumping about, isn't he?
Fake fan exposed. Fake fan exposed.
Shocking.
I know. I'm sorry.
You're a Locos fan anyway. Idiot.
Exactly. Absolutely. Money chuffs. Right. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, final thoughts. What kind of again? Do you want to go to Letterboxd? What did you guys rate it on Letterboxd?
So I rated it 7, but I rewatched it for the first time, and then I rewatched it yesterday, and I bumped it up to an 8.
So Letterboxd out of 5, so that's a 4-star.
Yeah, sorry, 4. Yes.
Yeah. Todd?
Yeah, I'm the same. I went 4 straight in.
I went 3.5, which again, it kind of goes in with the fact it's a first watch, and I think, as you say, with rewatches potentially, it's one of those.
Did you only watch it the once?
Yes, yeah. I'm a busy man. Okay, so let's move on to the next and final film in this part of Mr. Denis Villeneuve's filmography. So we are moving on to Sicario. Now, for this one, it's an idealistic FBI agent is enlisted by a government task force to aid in the escalating war against drugs at the border area between the US and Mexico. Now, for me, this is a second watch. I watched it a good while ago. I think it was probably couldn't be long after it came out. So it was a second watch. So yeah, it was kind of interesting revisiting it after a good bit of time. But it's pretty goddamn good. Now, Collie, I think I know your thoughts on this because I think we spoke about this when we were going to come back from Newcastle or going down to Newcastle. I think kind of spoke about Sicario.
Yeah, we did.
A decent bit. So, do you want to just take it away with your kind of thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this is the film that I was talking about with Prisoners when I was like, I flick between the two as being my favourite Villeneuve films. Yeah, I think Sicario is just incredible. It's such like a believable story. If you know, there's so much like media out there when it comes to like the war on drugs and stuff like that in the US and the kind of border. You know, even Breaking Bad and stuff like that can tie into all this. With the smuggling of drugs and stuff, but I just think like the story's really good. The filming of it, like that border crossing scene for me is probably one of my favorite film scenes like ever. I just think it's incredible. Like it's so intense and you know something's going to happen. They're surrounded by cars, like they're blocked in. They're seeing all these cars around them with like, 4 or 5 dudes in them with guns and stuff. And then it's like it's the instant snap of them. They're standing off and they're like calm, and then they just shoot them all. I just think like it's such a frantically paced film on the one hand, but I think on the other hand, it's one of the most like deliberate films. I think in terms of it plods along and not in like a negative connotation of plod, but like it's chugging along, towards the end game of the story. Just consistently, it's not one thing to another, but it's like this happens and then there's like a little bit of story and build up to it and then this happens and then this happens. I just think it's an absolute masterpiece. Like I love it so much, and the main actors, like not even just like the main couple, but like all the way down the cast list, I think that like some of the performances that are put in are absolutely amazing. Like not only is it my favorite Villeneuve, I would say it's like one of my top 10 films like ever, I would say. Or it's at least encroaching on it, probably, if I had to really, really think about it. I love this film. I've watched this film dozens of times, probably, since it came out. It's definitely one of my go-to films that I would just chuck on in the background while, playing games or if I just wanted to watch something and just, hang out and chill out. I love it very, very much.
Todd?
Yeah, like what Collie said, I think the like sort of war on drugs and that kind of like the cartels and it has been not done to death, because there's still good quality stuff coming out regularly about, but like this is the pinnacle of it. I think cast wise, it's like you say, you leave one scene with one person and you're thinking, well, who else am I going to pull up? And it just feels like they add new characters through the film, and obviously it gets to a point where they're not. And they're just, it's just actor after actor, name after name. I don't know how far, like, I know we'll go into a little bit more, but how far into Daniel Kaluuya's career this was, but like, I don't know, like even he was just absolute standout, you know, and it's a sort of, it's very much a supporting actor role, and he's still, oh, so it was pre Get Out, it was the film before Get Out, so he's not, you know, a household name.
He
I
done
would say,
Johnny English Reborn and Kick-Ass 2 was two notable ones before it. So
which are classics. And I tell you what, he was in just was Black Mirror. It was, he did this monologue in a Black Mirror episode that was phenomenal. It's all I really remember of it. I haven't watched it in a while, but yeah. So this is a rewatch, and it's a number of rewatches. I've seen this film a few times before. But even like having John Bernthal's in it for about 12 minutes or something, like a huge actor and a phenomenal actor, but he's just like, he's there and then he's not.
and the noise he makes when he's getting fingered in the ear, man, like cuts right through me every time, man. It's fucking brutal. Like it's just like proper like squealing in that, man. It's like so genuine, as in like that's how you'd probably be if you were getting fingered in the ear. And not that I would know.
I don't know.
Well, Massey, next time I see you, we'll try it. We'll reenact it.
And you'll see my whole face.
I won't even lick my finger. It'll just be straight raw.
Oh, Jesus. Don't get me started.
Oh, yeah, just away from fingers in the ears, Massey. How we feeling about Sicario? How many times have you watched it? Tell us something.
Sorry, I'm just keep thinking of getting fingered in the ear. No, it's yeah, as I say, it's kind of like this is the second time watching it, and I must have watched it not long after it came out. And I do like, I wouldn't say it's like I call it, I completely appreciate like how much you love it, and I can see why and stuff. It's not one of my top Villeneuve ones, but it's a brilliant film. It's a really, really good film. I just think he's such like a wonderful director. But I'm not going to say too much negative about it, because I don't think there's that much negative about it. I just think his other ones are so fucking good.
Say something negative. I dare you. Exactly.
John Bernthal isn't long enough.
Best film ever.
But yeah, it's wonderful. Now, kind of moving a little bit away from Villeneuve, it's obviously written by Taylor Sheridan, who I've come to appreciate a lot recently with Hell or High Water and the what's it called, Wind River. Because I think they're all kind of, I think he's seen them as like a part of like a unlinked trilogy, and like his writing is just wonderful. It's really, really like he gets it. He gets like the gritty kind of like real life sort of stuff. There's some incredible shots in it, like see when they are first, I think they first made it into Juarez, and they're going past like the streets, and the others, like on the other like block, basically there's a police car like following them as well, and it kind of like it focuses on the car, but you see like Emily Blunt like staring at it intently and stuff. So, like it looks unbelievable. It's actually on the trailer for our podcast episode that I did. It's just, I think there's like some wonderful shots.
Well done, Massey. Good job.
Thank you. And as you say, the whole border scene where it just like it turns on a dime, doesn't it? From being such a there's tension there, there's underlying tension, again similar to Prisoners. There's underlying tension that kind of like weaves its way through the whole thing, but then it turns a dime and becomes like almost like it's like a what's it called, like a formation sort of thing that the FBI like you see in like Rainbow Six and stuff. You have to be like tactical and stuff like that. Like it's such a cool realization of that. And yeah, I think it is a very, very well made film, as I say, very well written, very tight. I just prefer his other films. But the performances are wonderful. Josh Brolin like always just brings it. Like he's just some boy. And yeah, I didn't even realize again from again when I first watched it. I think I wasn't as into films as I am now. So like I didn't remember Kaluuya being in it. I didn't remember Bernthal being in it as well. So it was nice seeing them kind of pop up. Um, but even things like the start where there's the dead bodies in the wall and stuff, like I believe that's or it's something that has happened before in these sort of wars against the cartel and stuff, that they do outrageous brutal things like this, and them finding it is just so harrowing. And then of course the explosion of the shed out the back, or the outhouse, sorry, thing when they're searching it as well. It's just so gritty, so real, and it makes you feel like you're there. And I think that's part of the beauty of how they build that tension, is because it makes it feel like you are part of this unit that are doing these searches and stuff. So yeah, it is a truly wonderful film. I'm interested in what you guys think about Emily Blunt, though. Obviously, not necessarily known as being like a action sort of lead, I suppose, or even for this type of film, having a female lead is quite unusual. So I mean, Collie, what's your thoughts on her kind of taking a step out of the usual, and being this this sort of like hard nosed sort of FBI kind of person?
Yeah, I thought she was incredible. Like you say, it's not typical to have a female lead in these films, but I think actually that's one of the best things about this film is her. I think she keeps it like grounded, and she's like the moral compass of the film when it comes to what these guys are doing and operating. She's forever questioning, is this legal? Is this what we should really be doing? And then obviously at the end, it turns out that they needed her to be attached to it because that would allow them to operate on domestic soil. So not necessarily just her, but her agency. So they could operate in the US because the CIA and that are kind of, they're supposed to be everywhere outside of the US borders. I think it's the CIA that Brolin and that are operating for, or something like that anyway. But the interagency stuff, that it turns out that's why she's actually all been along. So that's kind of like wind out of her sails kind of thing, because not necessarily that she's supporting it, but she at least feels that she's contributing towards it. And then when it comes out that, yeah, you're only really here to tick a box, you can tell that she's devastated by that. And that's obviously when she goes a bit rogue and follows them through the tunnel and points the gun at Del Toro, who we'll get onto, and he shoots her, and she smacks Josh Brolin and stuff like that. So like the fiery tenacity that she's got is incredible, but it's in the kind of the quieter moments I think that she's really, really good. Like skipping all the way to the end, the scene with her and Del Toro in her apartment, and he's like, "You need to sign this, and if you don't, I'll make it look like you killed yourself." And just like the close-ups of their faces. I mean, Deakins again, like master at work, But like he does, I mean, like the amazing shots that you're talking about, Massey, of Juarez and the border, and sweeping shots and stuff like that of the vistas that they're working in is incredible. But it's the way that the multiple scenes in the apartment are all really, really well shot. But the one between her and Del Toro at the end, like Emily Blunt's like S tier acting at that point. It's just she's absolutely amazing. And I would say, like, as good as Brolin and Del Toro are, she's the best performance in this film. I think she's that good that she stands out against those two like incredible actors, who are incredible in their own right in this film. And I would say it's still up there as, for both of them, it's still like two of their best roles as well. But the fact that she's like supersedes them says a lot. And yeah, it was one of those, similar to when we're saying about Gyllenhaal and Prisoners, kind of made me sit up and go, fuck, like she can actually, act. She's really, really, really good. So yeah, what did you think about Emily Blunt, Todd?
Yeah, up until Oppenheimer, which I know we will talk about eventually.
Next month on the Oscar special.
Can't wait. This was her best performance for me, like as in her best work. I loved her in A Quiet Place. Edge of Tomorrow was fantastic, but like you say, that moment where she's holding that gun, pointing the gun, at Del Toro's character while he's walking away, I felt like I didn't breathe for the entire time, and it like obviously the shot was wonderful, like Del Toro, that sort of like confidence that he knows he's not going to get shot, but it was down to her. Like that entire thing was down to her, and that kind of like I have to, I need to, but I can't. She still has a moral compass. Yeah, in a film like you say where she's coming up against, she's with heavyweights, absolute heavyweights. Like I think she was the best thing about it for me. Performance wise, I think she was the best thing about it, and that's why, like, you know, when we're saying about like these people like Kaluuya and Bernthal are getting these little like I wanted to touch on them at the beginning because I feel like if I didn't, it would just be an Emily Blunt cast type thing. Yeah, like you say, I think grounded is the word. You know, when they find the bodies in the walls, it's her face that kind of makes you realize how bad it is, if that makes sense. Like,
it's normally okay,
as,
but until Emily Blunt says it's bad, it's
hey, you know, as self-appointed horror fan or whatever of this podcast, like, you know, bodies in walls is, you know, the common insulation in most films. So for Blunt to turn her face in the way that she does, and sort of her performance, it really sort of hits on where it's at and what's happening. Yeah,
Definitely.
she was phenomenal.
I think as well the whole thing between her and Del Toro, like I know your colleague said about how at the end he makes her like sign this. The fact that he's the one that saves her from John Bernthal as well. Like you think that, I mean, there is obviously a bit of respect there and stuff like that as well. But you kind of almost see him as like the good guy at that point. But then towards the end when he's the one that like essentially turns on her, like it's there's no, well, I was to say she's kind of the moral compass, but there's no actual really good guy, is there? There's no kind of like
there's nobody clean in it. No,
clean. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, yeah,
I think it goes back to the prisoners thing about like it goes back to that Hugh Jackman thing of, you know, Emily Blunt's doing what she can in the way she can to kind of be as right as possible, and you might not agree with what's going on, but she has her sort of her way of dealing with it, and I think there's a lot of that within especially these three. There's a lot of that sort of ambiguity. Sorry, Massey, to interrupt. I just like there's that level of it throughout the whole thing.
yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I was gonna go just sort of move on to Del Toro himself. Again, he's one of these guys that like I don't think he's ever been in like a lead, has he? Maybe like in like the earlier kind of Spanishy sort of, is that insensitive to say Spanishy kind of films? But sorry, I've got this podcast cancelled before episode 10.
I don't even know if it's insensitive. It was just like the Spanishy, like
those paella films.
cut this out.
God, right.
No,
he's actually gonna have to do some editing work. This thing.
No, but like he's not really like a lead, like in my eyes anyway, certainly. But I think he's like although Emily Blunt is phenomenal as well, like, he props it up as well. Without him, I think there's not that, as I say, kind of foil to Emily Blunt's thing. But with Del Toro, you never know what's going, or sorry, his character, you never know what's going to happen. Like he's working like both sides, but also not working either side, and
he's like dead behind the eyes, though.
Yeah.
Like in this film, he is dead behind the eyes. And it's the scene where they get the boy back across the border, and then he stands over him with his hands in his pockets, and is just like this, like inches away from him and stuff. Like he's so intimidating in this. And it's the same as like he stands over Bernthal when he's choking Emily Blunt or whatever. And then the bit in the car and stuff. Oh, dude, like Del Toro's an amazing actor. But in this, he's just next level. And then like to talk about the scene at the end for him at that dining table, and you don't know what he's gonna do. Oh, dude, that's watching that every time gets me on edge. I know what's gonna happen, but it's just super, super intense, and it makes me like sit forward in my seat every time watching it, man. It's so well done. Yeah, he's incredible, and even like when you first meet him on the plane, and he's just sitting there, and Emily Blunt's like fascinated by him because she obviously doesn't know who he is, and he's just sitting there. Even in saying nothing or the minimal words that he says on the plane, you're just like, yeah, this guy's like a badass. Like, this guy's like next level. Just on Del Toro and the film. Have you guys seen the sequel?
Again, I have seen it, but it was probably when it first came. I don't remember it much at all, to be perfect.
Yes, obviously we won't talk too much on it because Villeneuve's not connected to it, but apparently they are going to do a 3, and they're all going to be back on board for a 3. Apparently, I don't know how official that was, but there was stuff I was seeing on Twitter and that a couple of months ago about them potentially doing a 3 together, which obviously I'd be all on board for. But two's good, but it's like it's nothing better than good. Del Toro's amazing in it, but it kind of, as much as this is like an action film, it's as much for a thriller, I would say. Whereas number 2 is more of an action film than it is a thriller. I made this comparison to quite a lot of films of like first films and sequels because it's kind of a trend. But there's Alien and then there's Aliens. Aliens like suspenseful, like Sicario is, like Sicario 1 is, edge of your seat kind of stuff. And then 2 is just more action based. Obviously, Aliens is amazing, but Sicario 2 is like just that. It's good, but it's nothing more than that. And it seems a bit more of a kind of run of the mill film,
paint by numbers kind of.
Whereas Sicario 1 is like there's only one Sicario, I would say. Like even like we've said at the start, like me and Todd and yourself, like this kind of category or this kind of theme has been done quite a lot. Certainly in like recent media, like with Narcos and all that stuff as well. But there is only one Sicario. There's only one film like it, I think. Like I could talk on this forever. But
yeah. I mean, do you want to? Is there anything else you want to talk about with Sicario? Then I think we've kind of covered quite a lot of it. Yeah, obviously.
I'll just say, I know we said like Josh Brolin's incredible, and like I think that was the sentence, and then we were just like, yes, he is, and then we moved on. And I do think like Blunt and Del Toro are the two sort of the big hitters.
Yeah.
But I think it's Brolin who keeps that sort of the cat and mouse thing again, just alive the whole time. He's the antagonist essentially. He's the one who's like, he's
like poking the bear.
Yeah, that's it. Like more like the catalyst. He's the one who's making sure this thing moves forward the entire time and sort of gives it that intensity of like, Del Toro's unhinged, and like you say, at that dinner table, you don't know what's happening, but like, it's not that he's gonna. I didn't think for a second that he was going to harm Emily Blunt, like you say, when he protects him from when he protects her from John Bernthal's character, like, but with
whereas you fully believe Del Toro in the end scene, you fully believe that he would shoot her and make it look like a suicide. That's the subtle difference.
Brolin has that grey. He's that grey area again, and I just thought he's fine. He does a job in every role where he. This is going to sound like a bad thing, and I promise it's not. He's very similar. He's that stoic sort of like, even in like when he in Deadpool 2, where he's Cable. And you have that opportunity to be a bit more ridiculous. He's still this stoic, straightforward, and like I say, it's not a complaint. It works really well. I just can't think of off the top of my head at least a film where he was any different, but it works for him. And he performs really well. So
there's one film I think he's almost himself. It's not himself, but he's kind of dialed up a little bit. And it's have you ever seen Everest? Where he's better, but I suppose he's playing some guy there, isn't he? So he's kind of got to be more like that guy
as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
he's in that film like so little, but he's amazing in it.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's so good.
But no, I know what you mean about Brolin, like No Country for Old Men, all that kind of stuff. He is kind of these stoic dudes, but. You could, and again, you kind of talked about it, Todd, like the character introductions in this. The character introduction to him is in this big meeting and he's in flip-flops. But he's like the one commanding the meeting and he's in there in flip-flops and like khaki pants or whatever. Like, he exudes authority, I think. And again, I think that is a Brolin trait in general. But I think he's class in this. Like, even when he's running the meeting before they go across the border, and he's speaking to everybody and they've got the kind of, what are they? Dudes with the cowboy hats and stuff like that. What are they called?
Is it DA? No.
Something like that.
Rangers or something
anyway.
like that, isn't it? Or...
Rangers or something like yeah. But even like when he's got a bit jovial with them and stuff like that, he's still very like, there's a mission to be done and this is what we're gonna do, kind of thing. But yeah, like I don't have too much to add, apart from just saying like how good this film is, to be honest. So I'm fine to park it there.
Letterboxd, Collie, I'm assuming 5.
6 out of 5.
Todd?
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
5, yeah. I did give it 4. Again, it's just
4?
listen.
You're insane.
No. So it's not like when
Let's pull up Massey's letterbox and see what another 4-star film is that he's rated.
Oh god, no, don't do that. Well, consider I gave Pick a Destiny a 5.
But Pick a Destiny is a 5.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, legitimate masterpiece.
That's a bad example.
When I rate on Letterboxd, I rate off vibes at a time. So like I could easily give this like a 4.5. But like I just give
you've done it now. You've said
I know.
I'm
I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change it. It's just it's purely relating to the other ones in Villeneuve's filmography. That's literally the only reason it's a 4. But it's a great film. It is a very, very good film. I really enjoy it. And I'm sure if I watch it again, I'm sure if I rewatch it, it'll maybe bump up to 4.5 and then maybe to a 5. But if
you've rated it the same as Not Another Teen Movie.
Hey.
No, don't even hate me. You've rated it the same as Not Another Teen Movie from 2001.
Yeah. No, again, right. It's from vibes. So like a 4-star comedy isn't the same as.
Can't be asked. This podcast is over.
And Scorsese's overrated.
Oh, that's on record as well.
A 4-star comedy isn't the same as a 4-star dramatic film, in my eyes.
You rated it the same as Saltburn, dude.
Yeah. I'd say Saltburn is a bit better, actually.
Insane. You're insane.
There's one big reason that Saltburn's better.
You're insane.
Thanks.
Sick of it.
So, on that note, stop dragging up my letterbox and the kind of the awkward things that I've done on there. As I say, it's purely vibes though, so it's like on the day, like that's the only reason that I give it for. What are you looking for? I know you're looking for another like awkward one now.
You can see,
yeah, I know,
right.
But you can't find any because everything else is perfect. So.
Just look at the state of these ratings.
Go on then. What's wrong with my reviews? What else is there?
You rated it the same as Wakanda Forever?
Yeah. But again, this is where it's like Marvel movies I see as different. So like a 4-star Marvel movie isn't the same as a 4-star Villeneuve movie, if that makes sense.
Sanity.
I don't think I was.
You rated it the same as Scream 6?
Exactly.
I enjoyed Scream 6. Like.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd.
Scream 6 might be an 8, but like whatever.
Our listeners will back me up here. So yeah.
I'm not backing you on Wakanda Forever. Sorry, I just like point.
You rated it the same as West Side Story, and you hated West Side Story when we did the Oscars episode.
Hate West Side Story.
You did so.
It's a musical, so 4-star musical.
I just like to point out, right? We'll stop recording this episode, and then we'll have like the group chat will just be pinging, and it'll be screenshots of every 4-star review.
I've left it.
You've
rated it the same as the King of Staten Island, dude. What is going on?
Comedy.
We cursed this at the beginning when we said, most podcasts don't get between past 5 and 10. Well, we're at 7 and we fucked it, so it's been an absolute pleasure.
God, he's still looking. Right, okay.
Sick of it, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm not sorry. It's my vibes, all right? My vibes tell me 4-star for Sicario.
To be honest, dude, like you're a lost cause to me as soon as you say that Martin Scorsese's a hack. like
when I say he's a hack, I'm joking about that, but he is overrated. Is he overrated?
Well, you gave Killers of the Flower Moon 3 stars, so.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, we'll probably talk about that in the Oscar special. Talking about the Oscar special, our next.
I hope you and Todd have a good episode. Yeah.
Well, no, our next episode is part 2 of Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, there's no part 2. We're recording that tomorrow. I'm not doing it. Sick of it.
Okay, so me and Todd will do this. Me and Todd will do part 2 of Denis Villeneuve, and then the next episode after that. So this one is going to come out on the 20. Now, let me get this right, guys.
Oh my god, dude.
The 22nd of January, so this Monday. The part 2 will be out on the 29th of January. And then our Oscars show, the nominations will be out sort of 24th, I think we said, or 23rd, wasn't it?
23rd.
23rd. And I think we'll be having our episode out either the week or 2 weeks before the actual Oscar ceremony on the 10th of March. So we'll kind of we'll get that on Twitter and stuff. But yeah, if you do have Twitter, please give us a follow at LCD_pod. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, remember to follow as well. And please let me know on Twitter like that I'm right in my vibes voting for Letterboxd and back me up against the spider, the control of Collie. Please, that'd be great. Thank you so much. But guys, thank you so much for today. I look forward to part 2, which we will speak about and record tomorrow. Hopefully with Collie, with all 3 of us. But guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode, part 2 of Denis Villeneuve.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.